Hello everyone, welcome to biology class. In this class we are going to see 12th standard botany chapter 4 principles and processes of biotechnology. So in the previous class we have seen about the genetic engineering or otherwise referred to as recombinant DNA technology. So in genetic engineering or recombinant DNA technology we have seen the steps involved in recombinant DNA technology followed by the tools that are useful for genetic engineering. And there are three different tools that are very essential for the genetic engineering process, or the basic tools that are very essential for the genetic engineering. So they are the enzymes, and vector and host. So already we have seen in detail about the enzymes. So in enzymes we have seen the restriction endonucleases, DNA ligase and alkaline phosphatase. And under vector we have seen about the properties of vector, and also we have seen the types of vector, about the plasmid. In plasmid itself we have discussed about the PBr322 and TA plasmid. So the third important basic tool for the process of genetic engineering is the competent host. So because now we have made ready the recombinant DNA, or the rDNA is now ready. So once the recombinant DNA is ready, it has to be transformed. For that transformation to take place, it need to have a competent host. So the propagation of the recombinant DNA should occur inside a living system or host. And many types of host cells are available for gene cloning. So such as Escherichia coli, a bacterium, yeast, animal or plant cell. And the type of the host that we are going to select depends upon the cloning experiment. But in general, E. coli, that is Escherichia coli, the bacterium, is the most widely used organism. Why this organism is most widely used? Because its genetic makeup has been extensively studied. So we know about all the gene sequences. The scientists know about all the gene sequences of the Escherichia coli. And also this bacterium is easy to handle and grow. And it can accept a range of vectors. So you can insert a different range of vectors. And also it has been studied for safety. One more important feature of the E. coli to be preferred as a host cell is that under here the host spelling is wrong, HOST only. Host cell is that under optimal growing conditions, the cells divide every 20 minutes. That is, so every 20 minutes it gives rise to a new generation. Next, the DNA molecule, that is the recombinant DNA molecule. The DNA in general is hydrophilic molecule. So this cannot pass through cell membrane because the cell membrane is a hydrophobic containing substances. So it will be facilitating the entry of the hydrophobic substances. Since the DNA is a hydrophilic molecule, the DNA has to be forced into the bacteria. So for that process, first the bacteria should be made competent to take up the DNA. And this competence, how it can be achieved? By treating them with specific concentration of a divalent cation such as calcium. And the recombinant DNA then can be forced into such cells by incubating the cells with recombinant DNA on ice, followed by placing them briefly at 420 degrees Celsius heat shock and then putting them back on ice. All these procedure will make the bacteria competent, and so that now it can take up the recombinant DNA. And for if we are going to study for the expression of the eukaryotic proteins, the eukaryotic cells are preferred because so this cannot take place. Which cannot take place? The functional activity of the protein for which it has to fold properly, and the post-translation modification, it is not made possible in a prokaryotic cell such as E. coli. For eukaryotic protein, we have to select a eukaryotic cell. The next is methods of gene transfer. So the next step after a recombinant DNA molecule has been generated now, and it is introduced into a suitable host cell. And there are many methods to introduce the recombinant vectors depending upon several factors, such as the vector type on the host cell. For achieving genetic transformation in plants, the basic prerequisite is the construction of a vector which carries the gene of interest flanked by the necessary controlling sequences. That is, along with the gene of interest, it should also have certain controlling sequences, that is the promoter and terminator sequence, and deliver the genes into the host plants. So because it will govern the gene of interest function. Okay, so when it has to start its function, and for the stopping of, that is the termination of the process, for that and all, this controlling sequence are essential. And there are two kinds of gene transfer method in plant. One is direct or vectorless gene transfer. The other one is indirect or vector mediated gene transfer. First, we shall see in detail about the direct or vectorless gene transfer. So under direct or vectorless gene transfer, it is going to, as the name suggests, it is going to happen without the help of a vector. And under the direct process, the common methods that are employed are, number one, chemical mediated gene transfer. So certain chemical substances can be useful, okay, or used. For example, polyethylene glycol, PEG, and dextran sulfate can induce the DNA uptake into the plant protoplast. Microinjection. So microinjection is nothing but like using a fine tipped glass needle. Okay, so this DNA is directly inserted into the nucleus, okay, to transform the plant cells. And the protoplasts are immobilized on a solid support or held with a holding pipette under suction, because for the process of introducing it has to be holded, no? So for that process, like this, a solid support can be used. Next, electroporation methods of gene transfer. A pulse of high voltage is applied to the protoplast. The cells are tissues which makes transient pores. Okay, so on applying of high voltage, small pores are introduced in the plasma membrane. So here you can see, so before pulse there is no pores, and during the electric field is given, there are transient pores. Okay, transient means temporary pore is made, and through which pore the foreign DNA can be transferred. The next method of direct or vectorless gene transfer is liposome mediated method of gene transfer. So first, liposomes. Liposomes are nothing but artificial phospholipid vesicles. Here you can see in the diagram. So this is a small vesicle. Vesicle is nothing but it will be having an empty space inside, that is called as an vesicle, and this is used for the gene transfer. So the DNA sequence which is to be transferred can be introduced into the liposome. Okay, so that's why it is called liposome mediated, because the gene transfer is going to happen with the help of this liposome, and it is carried out by encapsulated DNA into the vacuole, and this technique is advantageous. Why it is advantageous? Because the DNA being surrounded by the liposome, the damage to the DNA can be prevented. The damage to the DNA can be caused due to the acidic pH or the enzymes. So those can be prevented by when we are using the liposome mediated method of gene transfer. And this process is called lipofection. Next is biolistics. So biolistics is nothing but the foreign DNA is coated onto the surface of minute gold or tungsten particle 1 to 3 micrometer. Okay, and it is then bombarded onto the target tissue. So when it is bombarded, okay, this will serve as a gun. Okay, it serves as a particle gun. Okay, and also referred to as gene gun or micro projectile gun or shotgun. So the bombarded cells or tissues are cultured on selected medium to regenerate the for the process of regeneration of the plants. Okay, from the transformed cells. Next is indirect or vector mediated gene transfer. So the indirect or vector mediated gene transfer is nothing but this is going to happen with the help of a vector. Among the various vectors used for plant transformation, the TI plasmid. So already we have studied about this under the vector. The TI plasmid from Agrobacterium tumefaciens has been extensively used because this bacterium has a large size plasmid known as TI plasmid. TI plasmid is nothing but tumor inducing plasmid. And already we have learnt about this plasmid, and also it contains a DNA which is referred to as transfer DNA segment, okay, and it is transferred to the plant genome in the infected cell, and due to this it is going to cause a tumor, okay, or referred to as crown gall disease, okay. It will cause a disease named crown gall disease, in which plant it is going to infect, this Agrobacterium tumefaciens. Since this bacteria has the natural ability to transfer the tDNA region of its plasmid into a plant genome upon infection of cells at the wound site, it is also known as natural genetic engineer of plants, because it can be introduced into the plant cells. The foreign gene, example Bt gene, okay, so it is a Bacillus thuringiensis. So we will be learning in this chapter about this Bt gene, okay, later. And this is for insect resistance, and plant selection marker gene, usually an antibiotic, and it confers resistance to antibiotic called kanamycin, are cloned in the T region of the TI plasmid, DNA region of the TI plasmid, in place of unwanted DNA sequence. Here unwanted DNA sequence is nothing but tumor inducing sequence. So in place of this tumor inducing sequence, when we are going to introduce some useful substances to the plant, okay, the plant will be made insect resistance, okay. So that is the use of this Agrobacterium tumefaciens. Here there is a pictorial representation of Agrobacterium mediated gene transfer in plants. So this is the bacteria. So this bacteria is containing this TI plasmid, and the TI plasmid is having tDNA. So in this tDNA region only, we are going to insert the desired gene, okay. So after inserting the desired gene, then it can be introduced into the plant cell. Now that desired gene can be introduced, okay, into the plant cell, and the plant cell can be grown in culture, and then it can be regenerated, so that now this plant will be having a very important function, okay. The next we are going to see is, once now we have introduced the recombinant DNA into the host cell. Now we have to find out which host cell is containing the recombinant DNA, okay. That process is called screening of recombinants, because once we know that which host cell is going to have that recombinant, when we are growing or separating that recombinant and we are manipulating it only, we will be getting more amount of product, okay. So this screening for recombinants is nothing but, after the introduction of the recombinant DNA into suitable host cell, it is essential to identify the cells which have received the rDNA molecule, okay. So which cell is going to have rDNA molecule. So this process is called screening. The vector or foreign DNA present in recombinant cell expresses the characters, while the non-recombinants do not express the character for the traits. And for this, some of the methods are used. And one such method, three methods we are going to study. One such method is the blue-white selection. Okay, so it is a very important process also. So what is this blue-white colony selection method, otherwise referred to as insertional inactivation? Okay, it is a powerful method, okay, for screening of recombinant plasmid. In this method, a reporter gene, LAC-Z gene, is inserted in the vector, okay. So we have to listen carefully. So this LAC-Z gene is inserted into the vector, okay. So with the vector only you have that rDNA. The LAC-Z encodes the enzyme. So what is the function of this gene? This gene is responsible for, because it is encoding an enzyme, and the name of the enzyme is beta-galactosidase and contains several recognition sites for the restriction enzyme. This beta-galactosidase enzyme breaks a synthetic substrate called XGAL. Okay, XGAL is the name of the substrate. So in short it is called XGAL. So it is 5-bromo-4-chloro-indole beta-D galactopyranoside. Okay, so this is the synthetic substrate which is called as XGAL. And so this enzyme can convert the XGAL into insoluble blue colored product. So if we are introducing the foreign gene in this region, LAC-Z, the gene will be inactivated, because in place of that LAC-Z gene only we are going to insert toward the foreign gene, and therefore in the recombinant there will be no blue color because there is no LAC-Z gene. So when LAC-Z gene is not there, beta-galactosidase enzyme cannot be produced, and when beta-galactosidase enzyme cannot be produced, it cannot convert the XGAL into a blue color. Okay, and that's why it is called as insertional inactivation. Just because we are inserting the foreign gene in that LAC-Z place, okay, so this activity of the enzyme is inactivated. So it is called as, the production is stopped. So it is called insertional inactivation. The host cell containing rDNA will form, so it cannot form blue color colonies, so it will form only white color colonies on the medium containing XGAL. So on the growth medium you have to add XGAL. Okay, so when it is inserted, the rDNA will have white colored colonies, whereas the other cells, that is non-recombinants, will have blue colored colonies. So that's why this method is called blue-white colony selection method. So we want only the recombinant one, so we can select this white colonies. Okay, so here the picture shows one plasmid or the vector. So this vector, which is called as PUC18. Okay, so this vector is employed for blue-white screening. Okay, so the name of the vector is PUC18. Here the P stands for plasmid, UC stands for University of California, in which this plasmid was constructed. The next screening method is antibiotic resistance marker. So antibiotic resistance marker is a gene that produces a protein that provides cells with resistance to antibiotic. So bacteria with transformed DNA can be identified, okay, when we are growing on a medium containing an antibiotic. Okay, so in the recombinant DNA, this antibiotic resistance marker gene, if it has, okay, so that is the vector or the rDNA which is carrying vector has this antibiotic resistance gene, the transformed DNA can be grown in a medium containing antibiotics. So if in the growth medium, if we add antibiotic, if it has the resistance marker, it can grow. Okay, in spite of the antibiotic in the medium, it can grow because it has resistance towards that particular antibiotic. So the recombinants will grow on these medium as they contains the gene encoding resistance to antibiotics such as ampicillin, chloramphenicol, tetracycline or kanamycin, etc. Whereas the others cannot grow in this media, and hence it is considered as useful selectable marker, this antibiotic resistance. The next type of screening technique is replica plating technique. Okay, replica is nothing but a copy. A technique in which the pattern of the colonies growing on a culture plate is copied. A sterile filter plate is pressed against the culture plate and then lifted. So this is the culture plate. Okay, so a filter is pressed on, so here you can find a sterile velvet on a block. Okay, so we are taking the master plate, so here they are taking replica. Okay, and it can be incorporated into another medium. Okay, and this results in the new plate being infected. Okay, and it is infected with cells in the same relative position as the colonies in the original plate. Usually the medium used in the second plate will differ from the one used in the first, because the second plate will be containing the antibiotic. Okay, and first will not be having any antibiotic, the second will be having antibiotic, and it may include an antibiotic or without a growth factor. And so if the colonies are produced in the antibiotic containing plate, okay, so we can very well understand that they are the recombinant. So those cells can be particularly selected, okay, when they are growing on a medium containing antibiotics. So those cells can be selected as recombinants. So that's it about the genetic engineering. So we have seen in detail about the steps involved in genetic engineering, and also we have seen the basic tools employed. So in the previous class we have seen two tools. One is restriction endonucleases and the enzymes, restriction endonucleases, DNA ligases and alkaline phosphatase, and the next one is vector. Okay, and in this class we have seen about the third important tool for genetic engineering, which is none other than the host cell. Okay, and also we have seen about the how the host is made competent, different gene transfer methods, and also we have seen about the screening of recombinant. The next topic we are going to see about is the molecular techniques. Okay, the isolation of genetic material and gel electrophoresis. Electrophoresis is a separating technique used to separate the different biomolecules. So based upon the positive and negative charges, the molecules can be separated. And what is the principle behind this technique? By applying electricity, the molecules start migrating according to the type of charges they have. Okay, so the electrical charges on different molecules are variable. So the positively charged particle, that is cation, will move towards a negatively charged cathode, and negative charged anions will move towards a positive charged electrode, that is anode. Now in gel electrophoresis we can see about the agarose gel electrophoresis, and this is used for the purification of specific DNA fragments. This agarose medium is convenient for separating DNA fragments ranging in size from few hundred to about 20,000 base pair. Okay, this size DNA molecules can be separated by using this agarose gel electrophoresis. And polyacrylamide is also preferred, okay, when we are going to purify smaller DNA fragments. The gel complex network is a complex network of polymeric molecules. Okay, the DNA molecule is a negatively charged molecule, and under an electric field, the DNA molecule will migrate through the gel. Okay, so since DNA is a negatively charged molecule, the DNA will migrate towards the positive charge. The electrophoresis is frequently performed with the marker DNA fragments of known size. So if we are performing the experiment with the marker DNA fragments, so we can identify based upon which region it have traveled and what is the length, distance, okay, distance it has traveled. We can identify the unknown DNA molecule by comparing with the known marker DNA. And the advantages of agarose gel electrophoresis are that the DNA bands can be readily detected at high sensitivity, and the bands of DNA in the gel are stained with the dye ethidium bromide. Okay, so when it is stained with the dye ethidium bromide, okay, it can be detected, okay, as a fluorescence in the UV light. UV light, you can see the fluorescence property. Okay, next. Agricultural diagnostics refers to a variety of tests that are used for detection of pathogens in plant tissues. Okay, so they are referred to as agricultural diagnostics. When the plant is being affected with any pathogen, the plant pathogen can be identified. There are two methods, one is ELISA and the other one is DNA probe. So ELISA is nothing but enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. So we can detect the pathogen species by using antibodies and diagnostic agents, and the use of ELISA in plant pathology especially for weeding out virus infected plants from large scale planting is well known. So if we detect the plant species at the earlier stage, we can avoid the planting in large scale planting, we can avoid the planting of infected plants. Next is DNA probe. DNA probe or isotopic and non-isotopic, that is northern and southern blotting. So the next topic we are going to see about the blotting technique. It is also a very popular tool for the detection of the viruses or other pathogens. Let's see in detail about this blotting techniques, otherwise referred to as nucleic acid hybridization. So the blotting techniques are widely used analytical tools for specific identification of desired DNA or RNA fragments from larger number of molecules. Okay, so we can analyze, we can specifically identify the DNA or RNA fragment by using this blotting technique. So what is blotting technique? It refers to the process of immobilization. Okay, that is, it is going to get trapped. Which is going to get trapped? The nucleic acids, a solid support. The blotted nucleic acids, so it is going to get trapped. The blotted nucleic acids are then used as target in the hybridization experiment for their specific detection. There are different types of blotting techniques. First is southern blotting. Okay, so southern blotting, transfer of DNA from the agarose gel to nitrocellulose membrane. Next, northern blotting, RNA to nitrocellulose membrane. Western blotting, transferring proteins to nitrocellulose membrane. Now let's see about first southern blotting technique. Okay, so southern blotting technique is used for transferring DNA. So this process of transferring DNA from agarose gel to nitrocellulose blotting or filter paper technique, it was introduced by Southern. So he is Southern. So he only introduced this process. Hence the process is given the name as Southern blotting technique. Okay. Let's see the steps in detail. First, let's see these steps. The first, DNA is going to be cleaved by restriction enzyme. So by using the restriction enzyme, the DNA molecule can be cleaved and then it can be transformed to the agarose gel. And when we are doing the electrophoresis, the DNA fragments can be separated. Then the agarose gel is soaked in an alkali solution. So here you can see it is soaked in an alkali solution. Why we are soaking is to denature the double-stranded DNA, and then it is placed on a platform in a dish containing buffer. A membrane is positioned on top of the gel. So on the first the agarose gel is there. Okay, here you can see this is the agarose gel. On top of the agarose gel, a membrane is placed. So here it is quite not visible, but usually you will be having a gel. On top of the gel you will be having the filter paper, the nitrocellulose filter paper. Okay, and buffer is drawn up into the top layer of the blotting paper, passes through the gel. So because so this is agarose, after which we have placed the nitrocellulose paper, and also you will be having many layers of blotting paper, and above the blotting paper we will have the weight. This is the setup. Okay, so here in the tray or the platform we have got the alkali solution. Okay, so this alkali solution will be drawn up. Okay, and the DNA is fixed on the nitrocellulose membrane. Later the membrane can be taken and it is placed in a hybridization bottle, and the hybridization bottle will have a solution, and that solution will contain radioactively labeled probe, and it is gently rotated. When it is gently rotated, the probe will bind to the complementary DNA fragments on the membrane. Then it can be taken and the autoradiography can be done, and it will detect the fragment which is been attached with the probe. So this process is called Southern blotting technique. So again you have steps here. The same thing given as a short one. And the transfer of DNA from agarose gel. So this is the agarose gel to the nitrocellulose paper. So this yellow colored one is the nitrocellulose paper. So transferring the gel into a paper. Okay, this is called blotting technique. So for which process we are using a buffer. Okay, and a buffer sodium saline citrate is used, in which DNA is highly soluble and it can be drawn up through the gel into the nitrocellulose membrane. So by using this blotting technique, the single-stranded DNA becomes trapped in the membrane matrix, and the DNA can be analyzed or detected by means of autoradiography. What is autoradiography? It is a technique, and this technique captures the image formed in a photographic emulsion due to emission of light or radioactivity. So when we are using a radioactive substance, so this radioactivity, the emission of light or radioactivity from a labeled component placed together with the unexposed film. The next technique is northern blot. Okay, so already we know for transfer of RNA we will be using northern blot. So since we are using first technique southern blot, okay, it is named after the discoverer Southern. Okay, so since they are in connection with the blotting technique, so they are given a name as northern blot and western blot. Here there is no connection with the scientist. Okay, this northern blot was devised by Alvin et al. So he devised a procedure. The RNA bands are transferred from the agarose into nitrocellulose filter paper. So he is going to use a special filter paper for transferring the RNA. That special filter paper is referred to as northern blot is referred to as amino benzyl oxymethyl paper. So this amino benzyl oxymethyl paper can be prepared from a specific kind of filter paper which is called as Whatman 540 paper. So using this Whatman 540 paper only, we are going to produce this kind of filter paper, that is amino benzyl oxymethyl paper. Next, western blotting. So western blotting is nothing but electrophoretic transfer of protein. So remember, southern means we are going to transfer DNA, northern RNA, western transferring the proteins. The nitrocellular filter paper can be used for western blotting technique, and a particular protein. Okay, so how this protein can be detected? By probing the blot with a radio labeled antibody. So this antibody will go and bind specifically to the protein. Okay, and here this shows the diagrammatic representation of a typical blotting apparatus. So as we already told you, so here the tray will be having the buffer substance, and here we are going to place a filter paper wick for the alkali, that is buffer to travel to the gel membrane. Okay, so then we are placing the gel, and on top of the gel we are placing the membrane, and then we are placing the filter paper, that is the nitrocellulose filter paper, and then we are placing the paper tissues, and above the paper tissues we are placing a glass plate and then a weight for the blotting process to take place. Whatever you have taken in the gel, the DNA will be blotted on the filter paper. So this process is called blotting. Okay. Next, the differences between the blotting techniques. So how it got its name? Because southern blotting, southern is the name of the inventor. So northern, western is and all a misnomer. Misnomer is nothing but it is not like the name of the scientist, so it is called as a misnomer. What we are going to separate here: DNA, northern blotting RNA, western blotting proteins. Whether we have to denature, okay, so we have to denature. In case of DNA, it has to be denatured. RNA denaturation not required. And western blotting, we have to denature the proteins. Okay, membrane. What membrane we are going to use? Here nitrocellulose or nylon for southern blotting. Amino benzyl oxymethyl, that is used for northern blotting, and nitrocellulose can be used for western blotting. Hybridization. So which is going to get hybridized? The DNA will get hybridized along with the DNA. Here in RNA is going to get hybridized along with the DNA, And here what we are going to hybridize, so this hybridization is the probe, okay. So we are going to detect this DNA, so it can be hybridized with DNA. RNA can be hybridized with the DNA, and protein can be hybridized with the antibody. And how we are going to visualize, so southern and northern can be visualized by autoradiography, whereas western blotting, when we see in the dark room itself, the protein bands will be visible. So now we have seen about the agarose gel electrophoresis and also about the nucleic acid hybridization methods, southern blotting, northern blotting and western blotting. So that's it with the end of today's class. We shall meet in the next video. Thank you.